coming up. I'll sustain no. They threw him a party the day that he got home. Oh, and they called him a hero, but he felt all alone. Surrounded by his family and all his friends but one. Oh, he lost him in that country to a buried roadside bomb. When his dad stood up and said, our hero has returned, he looked down at his scars and his purple heart and said, Dad, you know that hurts, 'cause that told me to not sound grateful, 'cause the good Lord knows I am, for sparing me my life on the day he took my friend. But I still wish that I had gone with him, or maybe he even took his place. Oh, but destiny didn't lead me that way. So I'm not trying to say you're wrong, but heroes ain't the ones who make it home. He said Danny had a daughter he'll never get to see, and I know that he was proud. He was only 23. They gave me this medal, pinned it on my uniform, but this piece of tin don't mean a thing, no, if it can't bring them home. So I told me to not sound grateful, 'cause the good Lord knows I am, for sparing me my life on the day he took my friend. But I still wish that I had gone with him, maybe he even took his place. Oh, but destiny didn't lead me that way. I'm not trying to say you're wrong, but heroes ain't the ones who make it home. Don't need to not sound grateful, 'cause the good Lord knows I am, for sparing me my life on the day he took my friends. But I still wish that I'd gone with them. Every day I'd take their place. Oh, my destiny didn't lead me that way. I'm not trying to say you're wrong. Yes, I am. 'Cause heroes ain't the ones who make it home. No, heroes ain't the ones who make it home.
And welcome to another edition of the True Patriot Outfitters podcast, folks. We hope you are having a phenomenal Memorial Day weekend and that you are getting time with friends and family, remembering what this holiday is all about. It's very special Memorial Day podcast we have here. This is the first time the TPO is honored to have a co-host for this event. I am blessed to have Mr. James Strawbridge. Brother, thank you so much for co-hosting this thing with me, man.
Heck, thank you for the offer. I'm looking forward to it. We're going to have a good time.
Dude, I was saying off air, folks, we get a chance as anglers, obviously, we chat a lot. We talk stories, and when we travel around throughout the season, we go into these places, we get a chance to spend time. And one of my favorite things is hearing stories from, certain anglers out there. And dude, you are at the top of them. I love listening to your stories, the way you deliver them. And so I thought, you know what, this is going to be perfect. Let's put him on the podcast and let's just go over a whole, we're going to talk nonprofit stuff, Memorial Day. We're going to talk fishing. We're going to do the whole thing. And I figured, let's do it, man. Me and you.
Yeah, no, let's have fun. First of all, I want to apologize if I'm scatterbrained. I have a bad sinus infection today, and allergies are killing me, so bear with me, folks. But James is here, and we're going to have some fun.
A medicated Jimmy is better than just about anybody else anyway.
I'm sorry you got to go through this now.
This is awesome. I'm excited about this. Don't worry, we'll speak slow. We'll keep. Well, listen, this is good stuff. One of the first things I wanted to touch on this topic here is, what is Memorial Day? When you go around, and you're talking to people out there, and you hear different greetings about Memorial Day, and people, sending good well wishes about certain things into certain sections of the community. You get a chance to see, if you couple that with going down the sewage line that is social media and seeing that, what unfolds out there, right, it can really load your brain up here. And so one of the things I like to do is really, truly dig down in, get away from media stuff and start looking back to, the history of things and what this is all about. And what really spurred me to do this is I saw multiple posts about this, trying to explain to people how they should be celebrating and what greetings they should have. Like, there was even one that said to not use the phrase Happy Memorial's Day, because that was offensive in some way and this and that. And the moment that I gleaned the word offensive from it, I about wanted to puke anyway, because it's like, don't turn this into another dang thing, dude.
Your little triggers are not our fault.
Thank you. And so that's what spurred this. So if you folks will, allow me real quick, Memorial Day, where it came from. Now, the origination of Memorial Day, there's a little bit of some places that I went out there actually date this day back to being created by the Confederate Army themselves in like 1866, when it was first being gathered then. I think it was 1866. But for our purposes here as the United States of America, Memorial Day was set up as a day of remembrance for those soldiers that died in our country in the Civil War. And it was established in 1868. It was the sacrifices of the Civil War soldiers, both Union and Confederate. That was the originality, or the origination, if you will, where, celebrating something similar to what we see here today. During that first, that was when it was widely recognized. And again, it's about the service folks back then, the service people that we lost, not current veterans, not active military. They have other days, that were designated. This was to be, looked at basically just those that gave their life, the ultimate sacrifice. And there was a speech that was given by, at the time, he was former Union general, and he was a sitting Ohio Congressman, James Garfield, who put a speech together at Arlington National Cemetery, because that goes hand in hand with Memorial Day. And one snippet from this speech just really strikes home when you hear this. And if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and read this per the quote. "We do not know one promise these men made, one pledge they gave, one word they spoke, but we do know they summed up and perfected by one supreme act the highest virtues of men and citizens. For love of country, they accepted death, and thus resolved all doubts and made immortal their patriotism and their virtue." That was James Garfield, May 30th, 1868, at Arlington National Cemetery.
Wow.
That statement, that section, man, it just, if you don't get goosebumps thinking about that, then you may want to check your pulse on and where your loyalties do lie,
Right. 100%.
It talks about, there's no politics to this. It just talks about the fact that these men, as here, I include men and women because I'm sure there were women casualties throughout this entire piece as well. But they resolved to give their life for something they believed in. And to me, that is something that type of faith and that power is something that cannot, it can't be replicated, man. It's at the heart for us of what, of why we do, some of the work we do.
Yep.
I'm going to speak about this one section here, combat veterans. I have the privilege and honor to speak to and work with many combat veterans. Any veteran or active military has my utmost respect and admiration, but there is a difference in micro sections of these communities about combat veterans, the things that they have endured and seen. And there's a quote by Ernest Hemingway that they refer to so many times, and this is what is going to lead right into this Memorial Day purpose and my view on this. Ernest Hemingway, and this might be a not an exact quote, but I believe it's it's close, very close to it. Every man has two deaths: when he is buried in the ground, and the last time someone says his name. In some ways, men can be immortal. This is by Ernest Hemingway. This statement holds more true for the combat veterans than any one of the statements that I've seen out there, because this is where the honoring comes in. Those men and women that have given their lives in the line of service for the United States of America, we will not allow them to endure that second death. We'll continue to speak their name. We'll continue to tell stories about them. We'll allow these veterans and these brothers and sisters to get together and tell stories and reminisce and keep their honor alive, keep their memory alive, and refuse. And what that creates is that immortality that Mr. Hemingway, was speaking about. This is why I say to those trying to give people reasonings or methods on how to celebrate Memorial Day, shut up. Because everybody keeps it in their own way. And the bottom line is this: if their heart is true and they are celebrating a weekend for whatever reason and understanding the truth, that it's because we will honor their names how we see fit. Some people honor by crying. Some people mourn. Others don't do so well with that, man. So they have a glass of whiskey, and they might get together with their friends, the brothers, the sisters, fellow Marines, fellow Army soldiers, fellow Air Force, fellow Navy, and they tell stories in a joyous way. I have yet to come across a U.S. veteran. I'm not speaking for them. I would never dare be so arrogant, but I have never come across a single individual that I got the gut feeling would want to see people sit around a place and mourn and cry for them. Not a one of them that I know would want that. They want you to celebrate life, be grateful that you are where you are, and understand that their sacrifice, that it was not in vain, that it was for a reason. And if you do that by grilling hot dogs and going to the beach, by God, do it.
And that's the purpose of the whole holiday, is to celebrate it how you see fit, because that's your freedom because of the cause of why you're there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the whole purpose of it. I never served in the military, and I'll be honest, I kind of feel like it's my duty as an American. I should have done that, but I didn't. I went a different route in life. But like you said, I have nothing but the utmost respect for anyone who has served and did what they had to do and paid the ultimate sacrifice for our country, so I could have the freedoms that you and I have to be able to go fishing and sit here and do this now. Because without that, and let's keep that going, because the way the world is going now, things are slowly getting taken away from us. So we're going to have to stand up even more as everybody being separate, we still have to come together.
And that's at the heart of this thing is that you and I talk about this so many times. I don't touch politics or religion on the podcast. It's just not going to, because quite frankly, I'm going to piss everybody off. If they really want to dig into my brain, they're going to know, I think all y'all are the problem. If you call yourself a Democrat, Republican, I think you're the problem because you're clearly not paying attention to what these people are doing. But no, I stay in that realm that we do this service to others as a citizen. Someone who's grateful the fact, like you said, we can fish. We can go to the grocery store still. We can buy items with cash money that we went out and earned. I'm telling you, folks, it wasn't just so long ago that wasn't even in place in this country. During the wars, when rationing started getting out, when we were, during the Great Wars and the two World Wars, things weren't so easy. Cars weren't being made. Those factories are being used to create weaponry to protect the interest of the United States of America.
Right.
We're not that far separated from that. And people forget that we didn't do that with politics, folks. We did that because people in the city and people in the country agreed our differences aren't greater than the needs of this country. Our country as a whole believes and stands for some things that we believe in. It may not be where you want it, but it's never going to get there if we don't work together to freaking find a way to make that happen, man.
Right.
And at the heart of it is honoring and cherishing those that fight for that stuff. So we can do this, brother. That's, and that's the piece that Memorial Day, you keep it how you see fit, as long as you understand that we're able to do this and celebrate this because of the men and women that have given their lives for this great nation. Today is that day, that memorial, and you celebrate it how you see fit, and don't listen to anybody else otherwise, in my personal opinion.
Couldn't have said it better, Gene. Well done.
All right, so let's roll this bad boy on here. We have an event, a meet and greet, if you will, for the True Patriot Outfitters. We're going to be over at Stanley Lake, June 24th. It's a Saturday. We're going to be there from 8 to 3. We have two other organizations showing up with us here to meet and greet for people to get a chance to meet these organizations as well. They obviously work hand in hand with us in our efforts out there, and that is the Colorado Kayak Fishing Club and Peak Rowing. These two organizations are going to be on hand with us. So folks that come down and learn about the TPO down at Stanley Lake down there and can learn about, the Colorado Kayak Fishing Club, which is a great way to get yourself introduced into the sport, connecting up with a bunch of resources there with those folks. And Peak Rowing is if you're more interested in just the benefits, the health benefits of being on the water, being outdoors, and learning a cool skill, which I'm actually really interested in this myself. Peak Rowing actually has money set aside for veterans, first responders, to get them no cost, work out there that they can learn this. And they do it right there at Stanley Lake because it's all hand launch only. So it's real safe waters to paddle around on. Have you been out to Stanley recently?
I have not. I think I visited that place one time since I've lived out here for 27 years, and that's it.
It's not a huge lake, but it is kind of a hidden little gem over there. At least it was until most recent events took place. So let me set the stage on this because I do feel I've posted something online in public view and I've sent emails over to the folks in charge, and I feel like my message is not getting through because the response I got was very generous on their behalf, and I'll explain that, but it really missed the point of what I was trying to get at. Stanley Lake is a hand launch only, no boats allowed. It hasn't always been that way. I believe it was 2019, 2020 when it turned over to that. It used to have wreck boaters galore on there.
Yes, it did.
It's not that big a body of water for that. If you put kayak anglers, kayak stand-up paddle boarders on that lake with wreck boaters, no thank you. I wouldn't do it personally. You're good. You're still there.
Oh, okay. Sorry. The screen went black. I was like, what just happened?
It to me, it would just be too close a proximity to wakeboarders and recreational folks for my personal safety. More importantly, in my case, I plan on taking these warriors with me out to there. And if there were that traffic on there, I would not do it. I would choose a much bigger body of water where I could get away from that traffic. So anyway, so it's a little place down here that is set for kayakers and stand-up paddle boards, and you're allowed to have electric motor on about 2/3 of the lake. There is one section that's roped off, it's buoyed off, and it has an invasive species of plant in it called milfoil. Well, dish a little bit for you take it from somebody who came from the natural lakes up north fishing. Bass love milfoil. And there are some good fish that hide up in those weeds, because these weeds, it could be 12 foot of water, and those weeds are up to like 8 foot, 9 foot tall. I mean, it is thick stuff, and there's a city of fish underneath that vegetation.
Yes.
They don't allow electric motors in there, but those of us who have motors on, we can pull our motors up and we can paddle in there, and you can fish in there no problem. Well, this year, according to the post that they put on, in coordination with U.S. Fisheries and U.S. Fishery Biologist and the CPW, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, has advised them to close off that section to all anglers from May 1st to June 30th in an effort to protect the bass during the spawn. And I'm going to tell you right now, folks, for those of you that might be unplugged, number one, first thing, and Jim, you jump in here, you tell me where I'm wrong, where I'm right, or if you want to add to it, throw at it. First and foremost, bass in this weather biome are not going to need 60 days to spawn. That spawn, in its majority, will be done and over by the end of May in that body of water.
Yeah.
There might be a few stragglers, but pardon me for saying this, those are the fish you probably don't want spawning anyway.
No, they'll start spawning, believe it or not, in that mid-50s out here. Even, I don't want to say low 50s, but that 54 or 55, you'll start seeing them moving up in those smaller ponds, let's say.
Yep. Yeah, man. And this is not a big body of water, but the section, I'm telling you, it's at least a quarter of the lake. Could be close to a third of the lake that they buoy off. And it is, make no mistake, it is prime fishing in there. If you're looking for bass, if that's what you want. Now, you can find walleye and trout and other things out on the other sections of the water. But, so first and foremost, that's a ridiculous amount of time to think that the entire population of bass in that lake needs 60 days. Secondly, on what planet did we just wake up where CPW is actually concerned with bass in this state?
You know, and that's where
Where did that come from?
No, and that's where I was going in my head when you were saying this. I'm like, well, you know, it's not a good thing for the lake because it hurts us bass fishermen who release fish most of the time anyways. But it's about time that somebody from Colorado Parks and Wildlife actually steps up and actually cares about the bass fishing. So I'm not going to look at it as a bad thing. So this is what, their first or second year possibly doing this kind of a shutoff on that type of a lake?
First time that I've seen that they've shut it completely down.
So they're probably out there doing samples and doing tests and doing other things. So they will learn as time goes by that, hey, maybe we don't need to cut it off for 60 days. Right? You said it was 60 days, right?
Yeah, June 30th.
Learn. So let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's play devil's advocate. They're doing the right thing. They're caring about the bass fishing. And maybe if some success comes out of this, maybe this can roll downstream to bigger places like Horsetooth, Pueblo, Boyd, all these other places that really, I'm hoping we don't get protection on this one, but there's a part of me that I hope we kind of do.
So here's what I'm going to throw out here. I'm going to disagree a little bit, and here's why.
Yeah.
Number one, you and I both know bass are not timid, weak creatures. They do not need protected like maybe other species in this state. If protection was what they desired, I default back to states that, for instance, deal with bass on the regular. that have a high population in their lakes and what they do to combat this. Minnesota opens up, bass fishing becomes allowed usually middle of May every year, like 14th, right around Mother's Day. It's like open, they do Mother's Day as a free fishing weekend. Everybody can go out and fish. The 2 weeks prior to that, they allow you to fish and target smallmouth and largemouth bass, but it's catch and release only. More importantly, where I go on top of this that says at Stanley Lake specifically, the reason I'm taking, and I'm not speaking about other lakes, but I'm talking about Stanley, the reason that it strikes me. Number one, I invited Colorado Kayak Fishing Club to show up with me. Hey guys, come on out to this lake. I want to tell you about this great fishing. Oh, you can't fish in about a third of it, by the way. You're going to need to fish over here. I feel like a complete dope, all right, for inviting a club that is doing such great stuff for the TPO. I'm trying to return, scratching backs. And now I'm like, hey, come on in. Oh, yeah, go that way. So there was no coordination or letting me know. And we chose the date of June 24th after a lot of him-hawing, figuring out schedules because there was a lot of moving parts. But more importantly, the only people that were going in that area to begin with were kayak anglers. You weren't seeing the little John boats that go out and troll around for walleye. They weren't going in there because they don't want to paddle their way into that.
Right.
You weren't seeing anybody that was fishing in there other than kayak anglers. So that's who this hits. It targets kayak anglers, which we're the one group that is probably the most conservation-driven and eco-friendly group. Dude, we catch a fish, it gets a photo time with us, it goes back in the water where we caught it.
Yep.
We're like little to no impact on a spawn.
Yeah.
If the bass were that fragile, even in climates like this, there'd be a lot more places locking you out and not letting you fish for them during the spawn. They can handle this, especially on a catch photo release. If they would have instituted that and said, hey, for the entire month of June, catch photo release or catch, wave release, whatever you want to do, but it's all catch and release until the end. We just don't want these fish disturbed that much. But again, if the real reason is a protection of the bass, then I applaud them doing something. I will openly admit, though, this smells like something else is at work here. I'm not going to say names, but there was when I explained to the person in charge, when I explained to them my worry about, you're really segregating out kayak anglers, man. This is not going to be taken well by this group. And bass anglers in general rarely get a voice when it comes to CPW work. We've seen that so many times around. And so we're really hoping to see that, we, the ones buying all the permits and all the licenses and actually doing the most with these fisheries, get a voice occasionally about our sport. And, we don't want to see them burn up either. We want to help. But it feels like to me there was another entity involved in this that was questioned after I sent my email over. The response I got, and I have the utmost respect for the person in charge there. She is phenomenal. But the response I got was, there's other great fishing spots on the lake. When we get back to work, we'll share some of these hot spots with you around the lake that you can go fish. I'm not gonna lie here. I was a little insulted, first off, that this fishery person is telling me, oh, well, there's better places. I'll give you some hot spots out there.
Waypoints, Gene. She's got waypoints.
This is what I'm like. I don't need hot spots, dog. You're missing what I'm getting at here. And it wasn't her. It was the people she was talking to that were trying to say, oh, no, there's better places. You can go fish elsewhere. And it's like, dog, that's my point, is that you're telling us to fish elsewhere. And this is going to be highly questioned by a lot of folks. There's already a lot of regulations on Stanley. It's been one of the things that I talk about with folks out there. Yes, it is not state. It is not county. It's a city owned. So you have to pay a $7 entry fee to get in the park. If you're going to launch a vehicle, you have to be decontaminated at their station. They spray down all your gear. I cannot confirm nor deny this, but one of our fellow kayak anglers even made mention that they forced him to open his dry hatch on his kayak and they sprayed in there. And my response to that was, oh, hell nah. Because my dry hatch area on mine is got about $3,000 worth of electronics and wiring in there. You spray hot water in there, we gonna fight.
Right. Can you sign this paper first?
Yeah, exactly. Who do I send the bill to?
Right, exactly.
It's called dry for a reason.
Yeah, well, that shows their priorities and how cherished the water is out here in Colorado, and that has a lot to do with everything being evasive. You know, whether it's the zebra mussels cleaning up water and doing their job, or it's the milfoil that's bad for the environment. No, it's not bad for the environment. It's bad for their duct systems and aqueducts, or whatever you would want to call it, that feeds water down the line. Because if those pipes get filled, then they got to pay, and they can't sell the water fast enough. So I don't want to get into the political part of it.
Sure.
We all know that's what it's about. But once again, I'm going to say this, Gene. I know this is their first year implementing this. I know you're fired up about it. Let's sit back and let's give them the benefit of the doubt, and let's see what they do with their power and regulations that they're implementing on us and for themselves. Let's see if they go the right direction. Maybe they will want some feedback from us as to, hey, this is what we've done. We've seen an increase in the fish. Maybe they'll let us sneak in there and start taking some fish out during a spawn to see what sizes are in there, so they don't have to electroshock them, or anything like that. And I will say this, I've done a lot of small pond fishing, whether it was in my kayak or just from the shore.
Right.
Bass fight off bluegill constantly, or any other perch or anything else that wants to eat those eggs.
Yep.
And I swear, I've seen this firsthand. I'll catch a bass on the shore that's on a bed, and as soon as I lift that fish out of the as I hook them and I get them in my hand, those bluegills are right in there, and they're sucking up all those fry, all those eggs and everything. And then by the time you get your picture and release, what could have been eaten by, 5 or 10, 15, 20 bluegill.
Right.
And there's already an amount of,
mortality factor.
Mortality, exactly. That couldn't come up with a big word, mortality.
More Robitussin.
Right, exactly. Half the bottle wasn't enough. But anyways, I see where they're going. So let's look at this as a good thing. But I do see your point. But let's roll with that and stay with them, Gene, because you do have a good voice and you do have power in numbers, and we can be an asset to them. Hey, turn them on to Tourney X. Let me throw this out there. Throw them on to Tourney X, and when someone goes out there to go bass fishing, maybe they have to fill out an app through Tourney X, and we can take pictures, send it, and they can regulate catch size, species, and all that stuff.
Right.
What goes on in that fishery. So we can use Tourney X as a platform for record keeping as well.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the major things that MLF with its catchway release started doing, is working with, mind you, they're at a much bigger level, but they're working with local DNRs everywhere they go with all that even hand recorded information. They not only digitally log it, but they got it handwritten as well. And they turn that information over to the DNRs so that they can see the samplings, the GPS coordinates of where it was caught, when it was caught, what size. The big monster ones, anytime it falls into like a monster size fish for that given area, they swab them and take a little scale sample, and they bottle it all up and they send it over to the DNR. I'd be curious. I'll ask the people in charge if they're doing this with some sort of studies to follow up, and if so, when will those studies be available, for us to take a peek at? Because that is a very good point that I didn't consider, and that's, if there's some actual work being done with this, then yes, then let's see. I think it's overkill personally, but that we could have that conversation later. Maybe there's, find, other ground. And if it picks up the bass population in this lake, okay. All right.
That's what we want to see, because if they get that word going within their own division, that's when it spreads to other fisheries. Yeah. I mean, and that's what we had. We had two very good anglers. One of them's not with us anymore in this state. He moved on, physically moved on, not like died. That was Sam Heckman, who was a heck of a guy, did a lot for the youth programs down south, a heck of a fisherman. And Eric Ali, they were a big voice for us fishermen here and went to a lot of CPW and park meetings and was a voice for us. And Sam has since moved to Missouri, so we lost that person. And Eric's just so busy with work. I don't know how much he gets down there enough, but I think, we need that again. And once again, Chad LeChance with Fishful Thinker, he has a good influence in the community with his TV show and everything else that he does. So we need more people like that to get involved and steer Colorado Parks and Wildlife in the direction of getting something on board for the bass, because they are very trout oriented out here in Colorado. I don't have to say that. We all know that.
Right.
But I think it's catching on, and I think it's all moving forward in a good place. I really do.
Well, in the lakes themselves, yes, the trout are present, but there is a population of bass that exist in these waters, and they should be able to exist in these waters. It's prime conditions for them to do so. And yes, smallmouth bass are just better predators than trout are. I'm sorry. It just so on the Yampa, for instance, smallies are considered rough fish, and they've been asking people to wipe them out up there. Catch as many as you want and get them out of there, because they're beating up on the trout in that in that river system. And it's like, yeah, that's a tough thing too. So I get it. Yeah. And that's, you're right, man. I should, like I said, the hard part for me was having this big open house here, wanting to get some people to come out, see kayak fishing, knowing what was out there, that June 24th would be a prime time to put them on that water. Right. They should have a blast over in that section over there. Now to know they won't be able to get in there, we'll spin it and at least introduce, it's a meet and greet for the organizations there. People can get a chance to test out some kayaks, because hopefully we have plenty of volunteers on hands with different types of kayaks. We'll have, of course, our fleet sitting out there of the Unlimiteds. And then, of course, peak rowing will be on hand as well. So hopefully this all comes together there.
Is this something that people can volunteer to come down and help, or is this something
100%
in your organization that can be done?
Brother, we're still so young. I'm always looking for volunteers to come down and help with this. Bring, people to get in the park at $7. If you plan to launch a kayak, it'll be $10 total. You got to get decontaminated. The decontamination station doesn't open till 7, unfortunately. And so that, you get sprayed off there. They'll spray off your oar, your paddle, your kayak, and your PFD. And it's basically
electronics.
Yeah, exactly. Spray inside the electronics. No, they're the kids at the spray station have always been phenomenal. I love working with them. They're real good. Lots of cool information there. But yeah, and that's why we're going to go from 8 to 3. Really, I want vets, first responders, their families, Gold Blue Star families, come on down, meet the TPO. See what it is we're offering here. It's a great time just to get outside. We'll have some water on hand. We'll have maybe some other snacks and stuff if we can organize that. Okay. They'll have a chance to meet the Colorado Kayak Fishing Club firsthand, see what those, you'll see some of the extremes all the way to probably the beginning, stages. Some folks that are paddle only, all the way to nuts like you and I that have, everything that you can imagine under the sun, to live scope, sitting on our rigs.
Live scoping fish you can't get to.
Exactly. See him way out there.
Look at him. He's right there. The buoy says I can't go there.
I was going to say, I don't even think I'm allowed to cast in there. Probably.
No, it's a big wall, right?
Right.
The invisible wall.
So this is, speaking of the Colorado Kayak Fishing Club, we'll go ahead and shift gears here. We're going to kick over to just recently, the Colorado Kayak Fishing Club went down and took its army down to Pueblo Reservoir. We were there at the CKB event, had a phenomenal time. Had a chance to work with some of the guys and have them on here to talk about, some of the wins and such. You took second in that one, did you not, at Pueblo for CKB?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And then Eric, the ogre himself, snatched up first place there. We got to get Pueblo away from the Alis, man. They just keep...
If they keep winning, we're going to have to put a friendly ban on them joining.
Right.
Attorney X wouldn't accept their money. I don't know what happened.
Well, I can't really say that these days.
Right, there you go.
He's a pseudo boss in a little bit of a way.
Yeah, he is.
He's the man in charge.
We're going to have a talk real soon, because I'm about to change all my hooks over to Trocar. I'm not looking for any deals or anything like that. That's not what I want. I just believe in the product. They're good quality stuff.
Hell yeah.
So I'm about to, and I've got some things I want to talk to them about as well. But
that's awesome.
Yeah. Trocar does a great job for sure.
Dude, Eagle Claw, I mean, it's you and I, as when we were kids, man, the first tackle boxes we ever had, you had Eagle Claw Snell hooks in there, I guarantee it. You know, the red and white bobbers. That's at the heart of this company, man. They've been around and been with us, American made, 100% poured, sharpened, formed, everything right here in America, right in Denver of all things.
Yeah,
So,
and
super
you know
exciting.
what? Try to get, if you can, get Eric on the podcast, because
yeah.
the design of those hooks are designed for certain things, for certain applications, how they slice through plastic so it gets through that plastic to penetrate the fish's mouth. That's
Totally.
why the flipping hooks versus this hook versus that hook, and there's a science behind it. I'm not one to talk about that. Eric will have all the info on that. But
and each one of them, like Laser Sharp is different than Trocar. They all have their different points on there.
Right.
For most of my applications, Trocar is what I end up leaning towards. There are a couple things, though, that I do prefer the Eagle Claw, point to. But yeah, then those barbs, dude, I'm telling you, you don't want to bury one of these in your hand. I'm telling you that right now, because that's not coming out the barb way. It's going to have to go all the way through.
and talking about the next level, I was talking with Eric, and he deals with a lot of the pros. He was talking with Fletcher Shryock, and Fletcher is so anal about his gear that he actually measures the barb, and if the barb doesn't meet a certain pazillimeter or whatever the heck it would be, right, he sends it back to Eric and says, no, give me a different hook, right? And I want a hook with this or that. I mean, it gets down to a science. I mean, talk about getting to the next level. I haven't measured my barbs yet, but holy cow.
I am going to find a ruler that has pazillimeters on it.
I'm looking it up, man. That's Robitussin DM 101. Robitussin, I got room on my shirt for you.
Love it, man. Love it. Yep, pazillimeter barbs. Only at Eagle Claw. Come get them.
So we're gonna have fun, Gene. I'll tell you that.
That's right. That's right. So, yeah, we went down there. We had a blast. CKFC came the following weekend, man, and a couple guys really showed out. Their numbers were super impressive. For those folks at home, the way it works with the CKFC, they have two series. They have the multi-species, and then they have bass only. And in this one, I believe Saturday was their multi-species. They catch 3 of one kind of fish, 2 of another, and 1 of another. So it's like 6 total fish for their multi-species. So they went out, put that on Saturday, and then turned right back around Sunday morning, and then it was just the bass guys only that went out there. And homie that just went on and put a clinic on was Mr. Alex Rojas. Alex was the very first Colorado fisherman that I had on my podcast here. Alex was the first guy to come on board. And I will say this, Alex, to me personally, was like my Obi-Wan. When I was first getting started in kayaking, exactly. He's not old enough to be Yoda, but
don't surprise you. Check out his beard like mine.
It's getting gray.
You're old. Don't fake it.
Let's see here. Hang on. I can probably share.
You're not going to pull up a picture of his feet, are you?
His feet?
Oh, it's a running joke. Oh, every time he takes a picture of the fish, you know how I always say, oh, make sure you're over the fish. Well, he's got his gnarly toes in there with his flip-flops on, and everybody doesn't look at, they just look on his feet, the poor guy.
No, I mean, let's see, can we, oh, yeah, there he is.
There it is.
Yeah, he's got a little gray going on in there, a little bit.
See?
He's holding up the Old Town Sportsman's big fish because, not for nothing, he smashed a monster freaking smallmouth there. It was like 20 and a quarter, 20 and a half.
Something like that. It was over 20.
For Colorado folks, that is a big smallmouth here. We don't see that many of those. I can count on one hand in the couple of years I've been here that I've even heard of a smallie getting that big in these waters. So, and of course, Pueblo, I mean, that'd be the place I could imagine it being held. That's such a good body of water for smallies.
And it's on a cycle. I mean, that's what I've noticed living here 27 years is lakes go through a cycle, it seems to me. I'm no biologist by any means, but they go through a cycle every 5 years. Like Horsetooth 2 years ago was on a great cycle. When I was in the bass boat world, it was, 8, 9, maybe 10 pounds was a good bag. And then 2 years ago, we went through a cycle where it was in the bass boat world where it was 12 and 13 pounds. And now we're starting to fade back again. But Pueblo, I think, is on that big cycle where
upward swing.
it's just, yeah, it's on that upper swing, and man, let's take advantage of that, and let's educate people to please release those type of fish and put them back, and use your own better judgment for selective harvest for sure.
Well, if you take a look at this, I mean, looking at their numbers, I know we put up some pretty good numbers there, but here's their numbers they come in with. Alex took first place with that big bass, that monster kicker in there. He had 86 3/4 inches. Second place was Paul Roth with 83 inches. Eric Ali come in third with them.
There's that name again.
Cashing checks on both days. He had 81 1/4.
Yeah.
Jason Duong had 81. I mean, the top four all going over 80 inches. That's awesome, man. For our waters, that's good to see. That's
And something happened with Alex. I don't know what happened. He could probably put up bigger numbers. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be interviewing him in a couple days, and I'm going to get the inside story. But what makes this even more phenomenal is the fact that Alex came out of his kayak that day.
That's what I mean. Something happened. Can you imagine the numbers? What would have happened if he stayed above the water?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there was some pictures circulating of him on the shore. He got all his gear back, thankfully, so proper, preparation saved him. And then they said that he didn't get back one sock. So what I'm going to assume is that was a fishing rod sock. Otherwise, how did he lose his sock on his foot unless he was shedding footwear or whatever to just be able to swim a little bit better? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
My waterproof socks will hold water, so I could see if you wanted to get better swimming, you'd want to shed those, but there's no way in hell my fat booty would be able to take my socks off with a PFD on in the water. No. My socks come off, I got hit by something, trust me.
Yeah, I got $250 reels and custom-built rods. The last thing I'm grabbing is a sock off my foot.
That's why I have a really good and pricey PFD, is to keep me up top on the water, and I'll just backstroke myself right till I hit a rock.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that interview that you're going to do with him and story about, like I said, can you imagine he lost 3-4 hours of his day
probably
cleaning stuff up and having a yard sale on the side of the bluff wall over there and then getting back after it. And then according to the story, he was pedaling back in because, he's kind of bummed out that everything went that way. I think it was Jamie Sandrovich or somebody. They saw a bunch of wiper blowing up, and instead of going back to his truck, he went over and started fishing for wiper during the bass tournament. Like, can you imagine the numbers he possibly could have put up if he didn't flip and then start chasing wipers?
Yeah, no kidding.
Could he have broken 90 at Pueblo?
That would be, I think he could have, yeah. I mean, one more cull and he probably would have done it if he'd been able to stay on that school.
A right area. He was in it.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be Wednesday. We're going to get a chance to record this, and then I'll probably air it. We'll probably air it the following week because we have an All-American Kayak Series preliminary podcast that's coming up next Monday because they're going to St. Clair. So I'm going to have a local guide that I'll have there. But then we'll have Alex on. I might put that up like maybe on a Saturday or a Wednesday or something like that. We'll get his interview up as soon as possible. So, well, good stuff, man. So that's, on the local scene here, CKB, we are on the way, brother, to Red Willow. Now, prime time of the year. This is when we wanted to be going there. We got some news a while back that I was a little disheartened when I found out the water levels, for whatever reason, were low. Just like when we were there in August. They were almost the same levels. Yeah. But then Mother Nature said, hold my beer. And now who knows what's going to be there, because this past few days, man, you've had to have your head on a swivel trying to direct, for us on this event, because Mother Nature just opened up the literal floodgates and just doused that area. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've been doing my homework as tournament director for CKB for sure. I've been in contact with Nebraska Department of Transportation, NDOT. I've been following their 511 website. I talked with Ashley Cook, the fisheries manager. I've talked with Phil, who runs Red Willow State Park there. And I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And then, of course, Jen and Dustin Muse, who live in Culberson. I do believe that's where they live. I reached out to her, and she gave me some lake conditions. I don't want to use the word info because I'm an angler too. I don't want info, but I need to know lake conditions. Our roads closed, so we had a quick scare there. a little bit a couple days ago about a possible cancellation if there was some emergencies and flooding that we might not even be able to get there.
Right.
And just not getting there. Just once we get there, could it rain so much that the lake is blown out? Did it go from that greenish clear to a complete blown out muddy mess? And is it flooding enough where they could have closed the park? Could we get home once we get there? So these are all the factors that I'm still, we're 95% going right now at this point.
Right.
Bring your rain suits, but the forecast is calling for rain Saturday and Sunday. But I don't know what kind of rain they're talking about. If I know
Right.
Nebraska, it could be torrential, or I'm hoping it's one of those cloudy, misty rains that just stick around all day and there's no lightning, because nothing will shut down an event for me as a tournament director quicker than lightning and wind.
Yep.
Those are the two things that I am very, very concerned with throughout the day.
Well, especially on a lake like this where there is a group of anglers that will be going out towards the main lake area at this place. There's no question about it. And if you start getting 20, 25 mile an hour winds sustained out there, dude, that's going to make that chop really, really dangerous for some folks. Right. And the lightning, I'm right with you, dude. I've been in a bass, in the bass boat world. I've literally set rods and reels down on the deck. The co-angler kept fishing during the lightning, and I told him, you do understand this. You get popped, I'm just kicking you overboard, okay? Because you asked for this one. Just so you're aware, I will have no remorse in this case for Darwinism unfolding right in front of me.
Out in the middle of a lake on the water with a graphite rod swinging it in the air is probably not a good recipe for trying to avoid lightning. Probably not lightning 101.
Yeah, so it's those are things you just can't play with for sure. And like you said, there was another piece with the roads. I mean, we were seeing pictures of these roads were not withstanding water, folks. These roads were gone. There was a river there. The Republican River I know runs through there, and a few others. They were just blowing the banks, and the road was disappeared. Major highways not even there. It's just water.
Yeah,
so
top of a pickup truck, you could see this much of his roof.
Yeah,
not his hood, the roof. And
yeah,
he tried to make it through there and was like, "Well, I guess I'm not." But here's the good news. Swanson's filling up.
Yeah, exactly. This is what I'm wondering. I'm going to watch this and see where is Red Willow going to be, Hugh Butler Lake or Reservoir. Where is it going to be when we get there? And will it be enough time for these fish to adjust? Because high water, I personally have found, and I have no problem sharing this, I personally have found that the day of or after the water rises real rapidly, the fish don't move that quick.
No, they don't.
It takes a couple days for them to really start to migrate and realize that there's a food source that they can get into. Yep. Plus, I think their internal GPS knows that may not stay wet for long. Right. So they sit back, and they watch that stuff and maybe come up and hunt and then pull back again. So we'll see. And like you said, hopefully it's not a complete Nebraska mud mess out there, because that'll certainly change it up.
Jen was nice enough to send me some pictures, which I posted on the Colorado Kayak Bassmasters Facebook page. The lake looks pretty good. I talked with Kenny Hood, who his son was passing through that area, and he drove through there and took some pictures and sent them to Kenny as well for us to confirm lake conditions, and everything looked good. So I don't think we're blown out, but the water is rising. I think we're going to hit it just right, Gene. I think it's going to be a barn burner within a quarter inch in the high 90s.
That should be fun. Yeah. Well, I was just talking to Caleb when I was at Shields for their big sale. I was over there, and I got that new Yak Attack cart. I've learned that the way I like to move my Unlimited is with a lot of gear in it, and there is just no way to set up the landing gear that's good when you have a lot of weight in your kayak. So I just use that cart now. But I was talking to him about this. He won it last year, and he can't make this one, unfortunately, just because he's getting married and he's got to give up some time here to show he's part of home team.
Married?
I believe so.
Buried or married?
Oh. Yep. No, I believe he's getting. I'm getting old. I think he is getting married.
Yes, he is.
Or it's either that or his real close friend is. No, it's him.
Well, I'm sorry he can't go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Gee, a guy that has a legitimate shot of winning that event every time he goes there can't make it. Oh, dang it. So I tried to convince him, just send in your entry fee anyway, just to be there in spirit for us, And
Exactly.
I don't think he did, but unfortunately, Caleb's smart and stuff. So.
Yeah.
No, man. So yeah, I'm excited. This should be. I love the fact that it's 2 different events back to back. Gonna get in there myself on Thursday. I'll leave probably, gnarly early in the morning.
Yeah.
Here, get there late morning or mid morning type thing, and spend the day out there. Hopefully, they said Thursday. At least the last time I looked, Thursday was going to be possibly some of the strongest storms too. So don't know how. Yeah, I don't know how much I'll get out on the water that day, but at least take in some of it Friday. I after being there once, I'm excited for me personally. This is one of the few times that I get to fish against you guys in a place that I feel like I have some history on it, because last year. I did a bunch of stuff last year in practice and during the tournament that I know I'm not going to do again. Right. So I eliminated a good part of that lake, and so I know it won't take me 2 days to figure out and go mark some stuff where I'm gonna be fishing. It'll all depend on how high that water is, but I have so many waypoints based off of last year, seeing all the stuff up on the shoreline. So if it's buried, I'll be set and good to go already, because I know right where they're at.
Yeah, trying to figure out that transition, like you said, going from low water to rising water. But like you said also, that rising water just happened over the weekend, and it's happening now. It's going to give time to settle. Man, those fish are going to move up, and I think we're going to hit it just right. I mean, leave your egg beater home, your fairy wand, and your 6 and 8 pound line. I wouldn't bring nothing less than 12-pound line to Red Willow. And me as a drop shotter, I'd even drop shot with 12-pound line at this point. If I had to drop shot and get all finessey, we're going to get finessey with 12-pound line here.
Heck yeah. Yeah. I have a method of fishing that I use that is somewhere between shaky head fishing and Ned rig, because I can't do either one of them just solely on their own. It doesn't work with my brain. Right. So I have found one that I have a lot of confidence in when it's an indiscriminate killer though, right? It'll catch anything, any size. So it kind of gives me feedback when if all else fails and you see me with an egg beater in my hand, that's why I'm lost and I'm trying to find some information. Otherwise, I'm going back and picking up a crank or whatever else I can get a hold of there. That's what I'm looking forward to, is actually being able to, there's some spots there where you could deep crank, I think, and maybe really have yourself a good day.
I am bringing a 6th Sense SB90. It's a bait about, I think. And I bought it when I was down in Texas fishing Lake Fork, and I saw it hanging on my wall in the garage, and I'm like, oh, that's a Red Willow bait. That's a Red Willow bait. Those fish in there are big enough. So it's going to be, for sure.
I have no problem telling you, you know me and swim baits, brother. I will throw on them in the dead of winter. I love swim bait fishing, and I've busted out. I've got some 5 and some 6-inch that we're going to be throwing now with Trocar, terminal that I can hook up with some of these, and All Terrain actually has a couple jig heads that I use with them. So I'm excited for that too, just to see what we can do with them. Maybe pop them around a little bit, make them look really busted up and hurt, and we'll see what wants to come up and have a snack. Yeah. So should be a lot of fun. Well, awesome. Yeah, awesome. We got 2 days event. We're going there June 3rd, June 4th. The Colorado Kayak Bassmasters will be there. We will be set. This will be our last event that then kicks off the summertime, and we chill out for a few months, and then we're back at it with the CKB in September. For me personally, September is going to be one of the hardest schedule-wise, because literally every weekend I have an event, be it here or out of state. And so we're just going to be nonstop, and we're going to end this thing with one of the biggest ones, which is the CKB national state championship. And then we've also got the All-American Kayak Series down in Louisiana, that national championship or series championship we're going to be going to there. Nice. Summertime. I wanted to talk briefly on this for folks that are getting into our sport, and who better than somebody of your knowledge. Summertime here in Colorado, the number one thing I always tell people is, look, if you're going to go out kayak fishing, the very first thing that I'm going to advise you to do is have good clothing that keeps the sun off your skin. You don't get to move in a kayak, dude. You are kind of stationary. And our sun here in Colorado wants to kill you.
Yes.
Okay. It has a desire to bake you to the point of, just non-functionality.
Yes.
So SPF like no other. And I mean, even these shirts here, this is Blackfish, this is the guide series with the cool charge. I wear this stuff, just keeping as much sun. That's why I wear the sun gloves, wear the gaiters, keep as much sun off of you when you're out there.
Got a little hoodie going, pull that up and over and
bingo.
And protect the ears, right?
Protect your ears.
And nose and tops of hands are very thin skin. Man, you'll get burnt and skin cancer so fast.
I use a product called Reeler's Shield. I have a bunch of it. It's an all-natural mineral base. It's a broad spectrum cover, SPF 30, and it comes like in a little deodorant stick size. And I carry that in my PFD. Every couple hours, I squidge it on my nose, keeps my beak, because I like to do the hoodies more than the gaiters.
Yep.
It just keeps me cooler that way.
Yep.
And yeah, man, that would be the very first biggest tip. And the second I would personally say is, be aware of when you're going to these certain bodies of water, because the recreational jet skiers, wakeboarders, this is a real concern for kayak anglers out in these waters. It's no joke. You need to have every bit of safety equipment you can on that kayak. Tall flag that's out there. If you're out before it's overly too, light, make sure you're lit up. Make sure people can see you, for the love of Pete. And maybe don't go at certain times. I personally, I don't know about you, man, but I won't go to the big name reservoirs on the weekend during the peak time of the day. If I go, it'll be right when the gates open, 6 a.m., 5:30, whatever. Yep. And then I'm usually out of there by 10 o'clock.
Yep.
I'll enjoy, 4 or 5 hours of fishing and then get out of there.
Yeah, 100% correct. It gets dangerous. And also, based on that summer pattern, those fish will move out to those main lake points where you need to be to catch those smallmouth, especially at like Horsetooth, let's say.
Yep.
That's where those fish are, and that's where you have to be. But that's where you're going to take the most abuse. Here's another good tip that the wife, when she used to fish a lot with us in the bass boat world, my wife's a redhead, so she's pale white, right? So she burns like in the shade. So she's on the bass boat with me, and I knew it was getting hot when I would hear the word shoo. She would just go shoo like it's hot, and I'm like, okay, Sharon's overheating. So one day she grabbed a spray bottle, and she goes, I need to bring me a shoe bottle, and she called it a shoe bottle, and she just took a Home Depot spray bottle, and she fills it up with water, and she sprays her vitals and her necks and her buff and her head, and she just sprays it and keeps that core body temperature down, which kept her out on the water a lot longer, being fair skinned, but covered up. I would not suggest spraying your body with water with no protection on it.
Right.
You'll be as red as a lobster in about 25 minutes. But
yep.
The shoe bottle helps. And now I find myself carrying a shoe bottle on my kayak. And
so when you first said shoe, because I'm dumb and I don't even have Robitussin, I thought shoe, like a shoe on your foot, but it's the shoe she was saying when she was hot. Yes, got it. Yeah. It took me a minute to connect the dots there. Sorry about that.
That's the Strawbridge brain. I'm in my own world. I'll eventually get it out. You'll understand eventually what I'm talking about. But
well, trust me, I've said this many times. I say this to Brian Romans many a times. Hey, dude, what you're asking me to do? I tie knots for a living. Okay, you can't give me too brainy of stuff here. Don't let the degrees fool you. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. But no, that is awesome. Yeah. I mean, keeping that temperature down when you're out there. And like I said, the younger guys out there, they don't think of this. Okay. I'm going to say this and I'm going to sound like an old, get off my lawn type of guy here, but they don't think of this. They take their shirt off. They're out there, Bro, I'm telling you right now, with age comes wisdom. Stop.
Right.
There are two, Josh Douglas, this one strikes close to home. We know Josh from back in Minnesota. He's a Shields corporate sponsored angler on the Pro Elite Series. Had a little deal show up on his neck, and this guy's a guide on Mille Lacs, man, in a lot of the northern areas in Minnesota. They're about as salty and tough as it come up there, those guys that grew up on those waters. They can withstand the extreme temperatures of a Minnesota summer is no joke. That is like Amazon hot, and its winters are literally, you swear there's penguins and polar bears in your backyard. And this guy got a little bump, thought it was a mosquito bite. It didn't go away. Next thing you know, he had a hole in the size of his neck, about the size of a quarter. He had skin cancer, a melanoma that got him. And so he had it treated. They took care of it. And now when you watch Josh on any event, this man is head to toe gaitered up. He's got gloves on. It's like, it's not a joke. That sun, especially Colorado summer sun, dude, it will bake you.
You are 5,000 feet closer to the sun than you are in Minnesota or New York or Florida or down in Alabama. And here's another thing people don't realize. And once again, having Sharon being so fair-skinned, we would come back from Pueblo, from the bass boat world, and the bottom of her chin would be sunburned. I'm like, how in the world do you get a sunburn on the bottom? It hits the water. It reflects back up.
Yep.
Right? So you're getting it from all angles. Not only that, protect the eyes from that UV. I mean, get those glasses that wrap and have those sides, because refractive light into your retinas and all that other stuff, that is not good. So, I mean, you bring up really, really good points. Protect yourself out here in Colorado. And we're out on the water for 8 hours a day.
Easily.
And that's just on the tournament day. That's not counting 3 days of pre-fish and then your weekend fishing and then this club and then that club. We spend a lot of time on the water. It's not a joke.
No, it is. And that's these are simple little tips and steps on the kayak side of things, especially, that allow you to enjoy this longer and enjoy the fishing side of it if you don't have to deal with being fried unnecessarily, having your eyes sunburnt, because that does happen. Just take a couple steps, man. Protect yourself and you'll have a blast out there. I know I can say this. My second year now, I've been in kayaks now for 1.5 seasons right now. I'm not looking back. I loved my boat, but I do not miss it, man. I love what the future. I've already got my next kayak specced out in my head. I know where I'm going with this. And I figured the moment this old fat body can't move that kayak around and into the back of my pickup, that's when I know I should just start learning how to do this better. And I'll get out of it. But until then, I'm loving the fact that it keeps me out, keeps me moving. And kayak angling is like no other, man. I feel like I am a far superior angler than what I was before.
Yes.
This is, you just got to take those precautions, man. And you're going to be just fine out here.
It's so individualized being a kayaker, because from the bass boat world, there's always a co-angler on the back of the boat. And I don't know what state you're from or what club, I know you're up from Minnesota area, but out here in Colorado in the bass boat world, the guy in the back of the boat had equal time on these little mini derbies to voice his opinion on where we should go. Because that's fair. He's on the back of the boat. He paid his entry fee. But how can we be the best or see how good we actually are when you're sharing a boat or a trolling motor or giving up half of your day to somebody on the back of your own boat that you make the payments on?
Yeah.
I never understood that theory. It doesn't happen at the highest level, and it shouldn't happen at the lowest level. A co-angler should be able to co-angler until he advances to become a boater. But that's a whole different story, and we can get into a whole other podcast on that. But the minute I left the bass boating world and I got into the kayak, and I had the freedom to make decisions on where I want to go, how I want to fish, how long I want to stay, what I want to do, how I want to break down water, I've become a much, much better angler. Now, one thing I do miss, and I'm trying to get over this, is you can't run a pattern in a kayak because you just can't cover the water.
Can't run a lake pattern.
Right, correct.
Yeah.
Correct. You got to stick to an area because, only 3 miles down the road or 4 miles down the road on the lake, that's half hour, 45-minute pedal just to get there. Then you fish, and then you've got to pedal back to where you started. Just to go to one area, you wasted 2.5, 3 hours of your day, which is a third of your fishing time. And if it doesn't pan out, man, so decision making is a whole separate level.
something I've seen at a higher level this season and maybe it's the time of year or the lakes that I've gone to, but you have just a bite window, man. If you don't make the magic happen at a certain time of the day, you are not going to have a prime shot at it, because if the other guys did, they got the juice and then they look to pick off some of the other parts of the day. So yeah, if you're spending that time traveling, you missed your bite chance window, and you're just going to be fighting for table scraps the rest of the day, while the other guys are already sitting on 89 inches or whatever, and you're like 72.
Yes,
Exactly.
Not to mention, with the population and the size of our lakes out here, you pedal 45 minutes to an hour in some nasty conditions through wake boats and wind, and you get there, and there's a boater or some other recreational boater on your spot. And it's not your spot. You always say, hey, that's my spot. That's the spot you found when you were fishing. But it's general open public water.
Yeah.
You can't go to a spot nowadays in Colorado and not have another angler, not maybe even in the club, but somewhere is being on that point or that edge or that fish or whatever. I mean, it's really, that's the part I'm trying to grasp.
I've not even found it on the bigger bodies of water, like when I go to with the All-American. Dude, you're not going to find a spot no one else has found. I mean, is there a chance? Yeah, maybe, because maybe that spot wasn't active until this year for whatever reason.
Right.
But in this, you can't bank on that, right? I mean, and especially here in Colorado with our limited reservoirs that we have. And we have a decent, high population of bass anglers in the state, especially kayak and boat. So yeah, chances are someone else knows about it, and you're going to be, looking to find ways to compromise to be able to both fish that given area that you're there. So yeah, I couldn't agree more, man.
Yeah.
You got to be able to work with that. Well, one of the things that the transitioning here that we've picked up this season, we were introduced it this season, but we've yet to get traction on it. We're not going to give up on this. We're going to really hoping next year is a big season for this. The True Patriot Outfitters, I have been wanting, our goal from day one was to bring our worlds together, the fishing world and the veteran and first responder support community world. There are so many veterans involved in fishing, so many first responders, veterans, and their families involved in kayak fishing even. And they may not know what drew them there. I do. I didn't know what drew me to fishing. And then I started going back in my life going, oh man, I was going through some stuff, this and this. And I remember my solace was on the water because I could think clear. Things made sense when I was out there. Now imagine, you put some, it's not just daily life troubles that you're working your way through. It's traumatic experiences where you were, put into situations that no human should be put in, but you did so. And now they find that calming peace in what we do. So to me, it makes most sense is bringing these things together. So one of the things we come up with is fishing with a mission. That's been a slogan of mine. It was on the back of my pickup last year. It'll end up going back on again. But what the Fishing with a Mission program is very simple. We go out and we work with individuals or local companies. This is designed to be really friendly with small businesses as well. And they can make a pledge based on a given tournament and my results. Okay. Their pledge is based because we record everything in inches. So what they do is they make a pledge of say 50 cents an inch or $1 an inch based on whatever results I put up on the board. A minimum donation of $50 basically becomes it. Now, the extra layer. So if we go out and we put up 72 inches on a given day, everybody that pledged our Fishing with a Mission program for that event, I then send an email to them at the end of the whole thing going, here's the results at Tourney X. We put up 72 inches. Be so kind. Here's the link to go and make your $72 donation, or, make your donation based on your pledge, that you signed up for us. The other thing that we wanted to do with this is we are going to, because we believe in the service piece, is we want to actually have a running list out there of these are our events, All-American, CKB, any other organization that we fish with. These are where we're going to be. here is the benefiting nonprofit or the program that those monies will be dog-eared and go directly to. Nice. So it would not be uncommon, let's say the CVMA, Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association, Front Range Chapter 36 here in our home area. These guys do amazing work for people. We want to choose a local event around here where we go out and we get pledges so that one of those events we're raising money, and at the end of this thing, the True Patriot Outfitters will make a donation right to the CVMA because we're raising money for them. It ties together, and for me personally, it gives something that more meaning piece. Now, mind you, it's extra stress because I know the people we got behind us, and I want to do well for them. We want to raise these funds, because we know that it makes the world go round. Yep. But man, that's the motivation piece. That's the thing that we're trying to do with this program. We just want to make it easy for folks. Soon we're going to be having a little table set up in front of like King Soopers, maybe a few other places around the metro area here. We're going to set up with, for a day or whatever. Nice. And try to, rally up some of that support for those, because I'd love to be able to do one like for Horsetooth, have a Fishing with a Mission program where we get some small businesses and people that set up some donations for that so that we can raise money maybe for a local project. We've got obviously our general fund that we're looking to pick up that we want to be able to keep and operate. I was having a conversation with Brian Romans this last week, and one of the things people forget about, folks, it takes money and time to operate a nonprofit organization. And I have always said that we will be 150% transparent with anybody and with everybody, not just the letter of the law. I'll go beyond that in our transparency. And the fact of the matter is True Patriot Outfitters does not exist without, my wife, her support, and myself, our family, putting this thing. I could show you numbers of how much between last year and this year, this overall project we've put into this organization just to get it on the ground. Yeah. So the very fact that what my objective is, get the TPO in its general fund, we figure about a $5,000 a year, 5 to 7. It all depends on how much marketing we want to do to get the name out. But 5 to 7 is an operating budget for the year of what we need for websites, advertisement piece, licensures, taxes, that whole thing. Yeah. 5 to 7 is a general fund of what we need just to keep our doors open.
Keep floating. Right?
Yeah. And so that we can keep the mission moving forward. Now, as we expand and go into other things with Romans and so forth, we're going to start tying this stuff into a national level where our traveling around is going to start directly impacting our services. So then we're going to have some travel expense, brought into that a little bit, but the numbers, the net gain will be much higher by doing so. We look at it as an investment, not an expense, at that point.
And you're reaching more people when you get to that travel. So
absolutely,
don't forget, Gene, what you've accomplished, you're fairly new to being back to Colorado because you're originally from here, correct? Right?
Well, I'm a transplant native. Yeah, I've spent 25 total years here.
And then you moved away for some business, and then now you're back again, right?
Yep.
So what you have accomplished with True Patriot Outfitters and working with Romans in the last year and a half that you've been doing what you're doing and getting your name out there, you're doing great things. And don't worry about how fast it's growing. Keep doing what you're doing, and it will grow because you're passionate about it, right? I mean, that is the thing. Don't try to take on too much, but also keep moving forward because you're such a new entity in the area. Word is spreading, and you're already tied in with the All-American. You're already doing national stuff. You're getting there. So keep doing what you're doing. And anybody out there that's watching this that can come and help, whether you're in Colorado or you're following Gene anywhere else, help support that because it is a really good cause. And it's important for everybody, for the veterans and the people who make all of this possible and the sponsors as well.
First off, I need to check and see if you and my wife have been talking because she tells me the very same things so many times because we see it, Gene. You're doing it. Keep going. You can't help but at 50 years old, you feel kind of like a neckbeard in the basement, when it's like your wife is supporting you and making sure that you can chase your dreams like this. Which I will never, ever take for granted. But at the same time, I don't want my wife thinking she's got to work until she's like 80 years old so we can retire, type thing. Right, so we do have that. But I do feel that, and I can't thank you enough. It's it's good to hear that people see it, because we're nowhere near the level of service that we want to do. I mean, we don't put on take out near as many people as we have the capacity to do right now. But we do spend a lot of time, building that groundwork and trying to focus in the areas that seem to have the good returns, in those areas. And one of the things I put out with a while back, and I'm still looking for, I'm looking for the True Patriot Outfitter right now. It's 100% volunteer, like all of us are, but I want a veterans liaison, a veteran first responder liaison, someone who their total purpose at the nonprofit is to connect us with groups. The VFW with the CVMA, go find us people to take fishing. That's the objective right there. Yes. And because we have to be so active with that, because there's such a workman type mentality within the communities that they don't want anything if they don't feel like they've earned it. And what I keep saying in return so many times is, oh my Lord, you guys have already paid for this trip. Trust me. Right. You just have never been delivered to you. And so do me a favor and allow me as a citizen to take you out and let's go get on some fish, man. Let's go have a good time.
Yeah. And also, and this as well. I know both of us here have exited the bass boat world.
Yes, sir.
Also, don't give that up, because there is a very, very tight-knit bass community here in Colorado. I spent 5 or 7 years fishing with Centennial Bass Club. I've gotten to know all the directors from, down south, all the way from Pikes Peak to Fountain Valley and Centennial Bass Club and Denver Bassmasters. I mean, there's resources out there. I know you've met this gentleman called Chad Brecky, right? Have you met Chad?
He's a volunteer for us. Yeah.
There you go. Get him on the podcast. Let him tell his story. He knows a lot of people. His wife, Stephanie, is married to a very active person in the bass community, Frank Villa. He does. No one's done more stuff for children in this area than Frank, and of course for Sam Heckman, who has moved to Missouri since then. But once again, over time, keep that reach going out to those guys. Chad is a great resource. We would love to have Chad on the podcast and hear his story if he wants to tell it. Sometimes I don't want to go into it too much. It's not. He talks about it, so I'm not going to embarrass him by talk. That man was blown up 12 times in Iraq in a Humvee. 12 times, not once, not 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. He was blown up 12 times and he survived. I mean, how do you even sleep? And he talks to me all the time. His only peace and tranquility is out on the water.
Chad and I had a chance to get out on Boyd together. When he was first talking about wanting to volunteer and help, I said, let's you and I, that was, my intro was let's go see and let's meet each other. How about, I sold my boat. It's not ready to, or I hadn't sold it at the time. It wasn't summarized. It wasn't ready to go. And I was like, but, I got a kayak. That's about it. He wasn't interested in the kayak side, because of just, his personal preferences. So I was like, okay, you take me out in your boat. And so we went out and we fished for a day. Yes. I love Chad to death. I consider him a brother. He's part of the Romans Warrior, Foundation volunteer network. And so, when I get individuals that maybe a kayak isn't a best fit for them, Chad will be one of the guys I coordinate with and have Chad take them out. I'll be there and send them off, wherever they're at, make sure that they get going. And that way Chad can take them out. Cause he was a ton of fun. He put on a good clinic on Boyd there for me, showing me all kinds of chatterbait goodness.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You've been around this game for a while around here.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I noticed right out the gates that, and we've talked about the podcast a little bit. It may not be his cup of tea.
I get you.
Yep. But yeah, we'll keep, I might be able to do like a, talk with him and do some stuff like maybe out in the boat. We'll do some recording and stuff out, when we're out fishing. Yeah. That might be a little bit better setting, where we're in our element out there. So,
yeah.
Well, listen, man, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out of this. I got to go look up pizzilometer because that's the word that's stuck.
The word of the day. The word of the day. Sponsored by Robitussin.
That's right. So we've had a chance, All American Kayak Series, they're heading off to St. Clair. Check with us on Monday, folks, because we're going to sit down with one of the guides in that local area. And the guy stays super, super busy. They're in Eastern time zone there, so it'll be like 9 p.m. their time. And I said, hey, man, I can schedule it another time. He goes, no, that actually works better. He goes, I'm so freaking busy right now. So apparently fishing is good in that area. So we're going to reach back out to that guy because those All Americans are going to be descending on that. I can't make that one. I really wanted to, but in a small change, I'm not doing lacrosse for bass.
Really?
Yep, we've pulled out of that. I am going to try. We don't know yet, but this might actually work out for me to see my daughter who's moving back to the Twin Cities area from Portland. Thank God. Yeah, not a fan. I'll tell you that right now. Portland, you suck. I have no liking for you at all.
This is what the sky looks like all the time.
Yes, and it was like Christmas time, and it was just rain, and the entire downtown looked like literally a war zone out of a third world country. It was just homeless people everywhere. Hey, I'm not being judgy or anything, folks, but that's just not a good look when you've got tent communities set underneath these bridges. I don't care where you sit on the topic. That's just not a good thing. Yeah. Whatever's going on in there, y'all are doing something wrong. People need, I don't know, they need some help or motivation. I don't know which it is. I'm not going to get into that.
No, it's way more. Yeah, you'll lose followers if we open our mouth anymore.
I'm just, hey, I was homeless as a kid myself with my mother, and guess what? My mother and we're not a religious family. She went to the church. They put us up in a hotel. Within 2 weeks, my mom had 2 jobs, and we were living in an apartment again. Yeah. I grew up as poor as you want to be poor, Jack.
I hear you.
So yeah, but
I'm an adult now, and I have the decision to work hard. I chose a good career and make good money, and that's all my choice. It's not luck. I had a person tell me, "Oh, you're lucky for the situation you're in." I'm not lucky at all. I created the situation.
You create your own luck.
You're right. Correct.
We're all fortunate to be where we're at, in my opinion, living in the country we live in.
Yes.
We're all very fortunate, and that's, again, takes us right back to Memorial Day itself.
Yes, it does.
Why we say thank you to all those that have gone before us and their families. So, well, listen, brother, thank you again. We're going to do this more often. We just got to get our schedules worked out, and we'll do more of these.
Yeah, schedule's crazy. This darn work thing is getting in the way of this fishing thing.
It does. Oh my God, does it ever? Work totally interrupts the fishing game.
Yeah, hoping next year I can calm down and I can focus more on fishing and not take the work on. But it's hard to say no when you're in the construction industry. It's feast or famine. You make the money while you can because you could be sitting home. That's what
I totally understand that. When these opportunities present themselves, you got to pounce. Because you may not get that opportunity again.
Yeah, it's not cheap for me to come to your house for not just me, just anybody in the construction industry. I mean, it's you're not talking like, oh, here's a couple $100. Every time the contractor shows up to your house, there's thousands of dollars going out of your pocket. So,
yep,
got to take it while it's there.
Speaking of, I need to get with you. I had we got a new refrigerator like a year ago because the one that came with the house was just not really to our liking. So we had the crew take ours downstairs to the basement. Well, we literally had to disassemble this thing to get it down there. Doors come off and everything. And unfortunately, one of the little mover dudes, thank God he was okay. The fridge got away from the dude up top, shoved him into the wall at the first landing down there and put his booty right through my drywall.
Oh, you got a Wile E. Coyote symbol on your drywall.
Yes, we do. Yes, it's actually went all the way through, so we've got a little hanging thing. You can't see it now. That's pretty good. But it got all scarfed up going down. Yeah. The wife come home, and I was like, where are you going to put that banner? I've never seen. She goes, right over the hole. And you don't even notice it's there. My son does because he's in the basement and he sees the big hole.
He sees that as he walks by, takes a picture of it, posts it.
That's right. So I still need to get with you on that to clean up that hole downstairs because it got a lot of it got scuffed up and there's a hole. And I know when I'm out of my element, I'll hang it with you, but bro, when it comes time to the finishing and so forth, you do not want me doing that.
It's funny you say that because we just had the drywallers at this job I'm at now, and we just hung 85 sheets on a 1,500 square foot house. And I just literally this week have started putting all the tape on the joints.
Yep.
I got all of upstairs done. Now I got to go back downstairs. Then I can start applying second coats on corners and flats and all that stuff and corner bead. So yeah,
That's an art form. That's an art form, dude. I don't care what they tell you. That is less science. That is all art. The mudding. Oh my Lord.
Yeah, it is. And I learned old school back in upstate New York where everything is smooth walls. What they call out here is a level 5. That's a level 5 finish, meaning smooth. Out here, we have this texture that's on our walls, whether it's the knockdown or it's the orange peel. So you don't have to be as good of a taper as you did back east. So I learned back east where everything was smooth. So the contractor I worked for, he stuck me in all the closets. He goes, if you're going to screw up, you're going to screw up in closets because I don't want it in the living room. I learned to walk on stilts and everything. I got a set of stilts I walk on as I'm mudding and I'm taping. I'm even so old school. I still use a hawk and a trowel. I don't even use, the pan with the trowels.
Wow.
So it's definitely an art form. I enjoy it, but I tell you what, I couldn't do it every day. There's no way.
Oh, it's
diversity of my job.
Yeah, I was going to say it takes its toll on you for sure.
Yep.
Those guys that come through there. Yeah, for sure. Alrighty, well, listen, folks, make sure to smash that subscribe button there. If you liked the video at the start of this, that is Sam Gonzalez. Check him out. He's part of our Stop 22 tour. Romans Warrior Foundation will be in town in Commerce City. We will have the Global War on Terror's Wall of Remembrance for a big golf tournament fundraiser going on over there. Check the website, check our socials for all that information. You'll see us. Come down and meet the TPO down there as well. We'll be on hand that Friday and Saturday and probably Sunday as well. So come by and stop and chat with us, meet the whole family and everything behind there. We'd love to see you. As always, folks, we appreciate all your love and support and your follows. I'm trying to find our intro. There it is. As always, tie lines. Be safe.